What's up guys, it's Z here, welcome back. Today we're going to do a very special profile. Darkwing Blast is just getting released and of course, as the name of the set suggests, we all know that there are new Blackwing cards in this set and I feel like this is one of the most fun favorite decks, if not the most fun favorite deck of all time. And because of that, Konami is always going to keep releasing new support for this deck until the end of the game pretty much. And now I'm pretty happy that Konami is still sticking to the Synchro theme and making this deck play more like a Synchro deck other than anything else, because we know that sometimes Konami changes the playstyles of decks completely while trying to make them competitive. But no, with this deck, they stick to the game plan. They are giving us Synchro cards that are really good, and basically we keep replacing old pieces of cards that people never thought that would actually cut from the deck. But yeah, we have a deck that basically doesn't play cards like Kalut or Gale the Whirlwind anymore, cards that were considered to be absolutely broken back in the day. So now let's see exactly what these new cards that we got can do for the deck, and if they can actually push it to be at least a decent deck to combat the meta, because we all know that we would love to see Blackwings do something in the competitive scene, but it would take a lot of effort. So let's see if these cards can help with that, even just a tiny bit. So before we begin with the video, if you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and now let's get to the deck profile. So starting off with the monsters, we have 3 copies of Blackwing, Simoon the Poison Wind. This is the most important monster of the deck. It's an old piece of support, but a card that is absolutely necessary. This card basically means that you can play 6 copies of Black Whirlwind, so when you have it in your hand, you reveal it, you banish another Blackwing from your hand, you play a Black Whirlwind from your deck face up on your field, and you extra normal summon this card without a tribute. This card is fantastic. It gets access to the best card in your deck, it gives you an additional normal summon, which means an extra search, and if you open this with 1 or even multiple copies of Black Whirlwind, then there's no way you're going to lose, because the advantage you're going to get is absolutely ridiculous, since Black Whirlwind is not once per turn, so you're going to get a ton of searches. So yeah, this card helps the deck a lot. We have 3 copies of Blackwing, Chris the Crack of Dawn. This is a card that special summons itself. We all know that Blackwings do have a lot of cards like that, because birds of a feather flock together, so we need to be able to summon as many ones from the hand as possible, so we can go for Synchro, Xyz, and even Link plays. And even all of these cards, not all of them are searchable, but even when you don't special summon them, just normal summoning a 1900 beater means that you can basically search anything in your deck. We have 3 copies of Blackwing, Bora the Spear. This is another level 4 monster that you can just special summon from your hand when you control a Blackwing. This with Chris makes it 6 monsters that you can special summon, and them being level 4 means that you can also go for really good rank 4 plays, and because they are dark, you can go for powerful Xyz monsters like Evil Storm Nightmare, which are really good interruptions, especially in a format like this where your opponent will need to link summon eventually, so by putting the monsters face down, you're going to cut them off completely. So yeah, these cards are really good. Now let's get to some of the new stuff we got in Darkwing Blast. First, we have 3 copies of Blackwing, Vara the Knave. So this card is basically the replacement for Gale the Whirlwind. Gale was a card that you would play for a level 3 tuner that could special summon itself, but the thing is, level 3 tuners don't make that much sense, because you're trying to go for level 6, level 8, or level 10 Synchro monsters. So 4+3 always meant that you were going for a level 7, so it was not the best thing to do. But this card being a level 2 tuner that you can special summon from your hand if you control a Blackwing, you can go for better stuff like Nullfang, which will give you an extra normal summon, so potentially even more search in Black Whirlwind, and also has another effect that during your main phase you can send this card from the field and 1 or more Blackwing non-tuners from your deck to the grave whose total level equal 8, so you can summon a Blackwing Dragon from your extra deck. Now, a lot of these cards do lock you into either dark monsters or even Synchro monsters, but it doesn't matter too much, because dark Synchros already have good cards that you can summon to go for interruptions, cards like Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, for example. So yeah, you don't really care too much about the restrictions of the deck. You care about the fact you can summon really big monsters very easily. Going second, this deck can overwhelm your opponent with a lot of beaters, and going first, it does have quite a few extra deck monsters you can summon, basically keep interrupting your opponent until you get your turn back to go for the OTK. And this is one of the most important combo pieces that we have got in a recent set, so yeah, this card is an absolute real. We play 3 copies of Blackwing Sultry the Illusory Spark. This is a card that when it's normal summoned, you can add a card that mentions Blackwing Dragon from your deck to your hand, so you can search the trap card, which is another piece of interruption that we got in Dark Blast, and it also has another effect that you can tribute 1 monster to special summon a level 2 tuner token, and then you take 700 damage, and you cannot special summon monsters except Synchro monsters the turn you activate this effect. So this card searches interruption. If you have too many monsters that are non-tuners, that you can tribute 1 of them with this card to get a tuner, to go for Nullfang, get the extra normal summon, and keep going like that. So not only does it give you interruption, but it also gives you something to extend, so it's a really good card. The problem is that it has to be normal summon, so you need to be able to save 1 of your normal summons for this card. Either you're going to use your extra normal summon for Simoon on itself, and then you're going to search this and normal summon this, or you're going to use the extra normal summon from Nullfang to basically get this card out from your hand. Now for some one-offs, and we do have a lot of one-off Blackwings in the deck, because all of them are searchable with Black Whirlwind, and these offer some extra utility for the deck. We have 1 copy of Blackwing having Shamal the Sandstorm, you can send this card from your hand or field to the grave to place one Black Feather Whirlwind from your deck face up in your spell and trap zone. This is the new continuous spell that we got in Dark Blast. Unfortunately, it's not nearly as good as Black Whirlwind, but it's something that you can play as a one-off, and because of this card, you can search it basically whenever you want. And if a Blackwing Synchro monster or a Blackwing Dragon is special summoned to your field while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish it, target a Blackwing monster in your grave, and add it to your hand, and then you take another 700 damage. Those damages you take, sometimes you don't matter, especially if you go into time you don't want to take any damage, and that's where Black Dragon comes in because it absorbs those 700s and puts counters on itself, so you don't really care about this damage. You are not going to lose in time because of it if you play the deck correct. We play one copy of Blackwing Chinook the Snow Strike. This is basically a hand drop for the deck. You can send this card from your hand or field to the grave to target a face-up monster your opponent controls. You send a Blackwing Synchro monster or a Blackwing Dragon from your extra deck to the grave, and if you do until the end of this turn, the targeted monster loses 700 attack and it's negate its effects, and if you control a Dark Synchro monster, this becomes a quick effect. So it's a card that you can search to basically get more interruption during your opponent's turn, or when you're going second and your opponent has a bunch of big monsters on the field that are going to interrupt you, you can use this effect offensively to try to make your opponent have less interruption when you're trying to do your own thing. We play one copy of Blackwing Zephyros the Elite. We all know how good Zephyros is in the deck because it can recycle Black Whirlwind, then it special summon itself back, and then you're going to activate Black Whirlwind again. Also, I forgot to mention that the Black Whirlwind you set up with Simoon is going to get banished during the end phase, but if you bounce it with Zephyros, then you activate it again, then it's not going to get banished because it does not remember that it was placed on the field with Simoon's effect. We have one copy of Blackwing Oster the South Wind. This is another normal summon of the deck. It's a level 4 tuner that on summon is going to special summon one of your banished Blackwings, and because of Simoon we do have a lot of banished Blackwings, but even if you don't draw Simoon, there is a new engine that we're going to play in the deck that makes sure that you're going to have something banished for this card's effect in case you need to normal summon. We have one copy of Orochi the Squall. This is a Blackwing tuner level 1 that you can special summon if you control a Blackwing, and the cool thing about this card is that it's a level 1 monster, so if you combine it with a card like Blackwing Dragon, you can easily go for Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss to get more interruptions on the board. And we have one copy of Blackwing Hamart on the Dust. This is a card that manipulates its level. It's another monster that you can special summon if you control a Blackwing, and then when it's summoned, you can target another Blackwing you control and increase this card's level by that monster's level. So depending on what you have on the field, you're going to make this card either a really big level or you can try to keep it low, depending on what type of Synchro monster you are trying to summon. Now, that's it for the Blackwing monsters, but we do play one additional engine in the deck that helps the deck a lot, and it's something that you're going to see a lot in a lot of decks. Unfortunately, it's very generic. Konami has done it again. It has given us an engine that is going to be splashed in so many different things, and this is the Bestial engine. We knew that from the OCG that this engine is going to be absolutely ridiculous, so we are playing it ourselves. So we have 3 copies of Bestial Magnamut. You can target a light or a dark monster in either graveyard, you banish it, and you special summon this card from your hand. If your opponent controls a monster, this is a quick effect, so going second, sometimes you can use this as a type of DT Crow type of effect and get an extra body on the field. And if it's summoned during the end phase, you can add a dragon monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So yeah, this card is amazing. You're going to get a free extender, it will give you a surge during the end phase for follow-up, and can be used for disruption as well. It is an absolutely amazing card. And the card you're going to be searching with this card is the one copy of Bestial Druid Worm, which is basically the same thing. You can target a light or a dark in the grave to banish it to special summon this card. Again, it becomes a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster, and if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can target one of your opponent's special summon monsters and send it to the graveyard. So it's really good going second. When you synchro with it, you're going to get a free plus by destroying one of your opponent's cards. So yeah, this engine makes a lot of sense for the deck. It's very, very budget. It's really powerful, so I feel like it's absolutely necessary to play in the deck in order to make it as competitive as possible. Now, moving on to the spell cards, we have 3 copies of Black Whirlwind. Everybody knows this card. This card is the plus button of the deck. You get a search every time you normal summon for any Blackwing with lower attack points than the one you normal summoned, and this deck can normal summon so many times that it's not even funny. If you have multiple copies of this or 1 copy with Simoon, which equals to multiple copies, you're going to get so much advantage that it's not even funny. You're going to get so many monsters that you're going to be able to not only make a really big board, but you're going to have follow-up for at least the next 2 turns because of how many cards you'll have in your hand. This card is the win button of the deck, and you want to say this as consistently as possible. We also play 1 copy of Black Feather Whirlwind, which is the new continuous spell that we got in Dark Blast. It's not as good, but it's a decent card because it's searchable. So once per turn, if you special summon a Dark Synchro monster from your extra deck, you can target one of your Blackwing monsters or Blackwing Dragon with lower attack that is in your graveyard or in your banished zone, and you can special summon it. And once per turn, if a dark monster you control will be destroyed by a card effect, you can remove a Black Feather counter from your field instead, which is very easy to do because Blackwing Dragon, all those 700 points of damage you keep taking because of your effects, they are going to get negated and give counters to your dragon, so you can protect them this way. And also you can get some sort of extension with this card by special summoning more monsters, but again, not nearly as good as Black Whirlwind, but because it's searchable, you can play it as a 1. We play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. This is how important getting access to Black Whirlwind is, and I know that this is not a very budget option for the deck. You can replace it with something else. But if you want to play this deck as competitively as possible, then I feel like you need this card in your deck, because if you don't see Simoon or Black Whirlwind, your plays are going to be very, very lackluster. But if you get access to them very early, then you're going to make some really big boards, and you can also make some really big pushes going second. So yeah, this card, I feel like in a deck that wants to see a particular card as quickly as possible, is an absolute real. We play 3 copies of Dark Ruler no more, because going second, the deck, all it does is just spams monsters from the hand and then try to go for some big plays from the extra deck. But if your opponent interrupts cards like Simoon, then you're not going to have the best of times, so you need to be able to at least deal with your opponent's board first. We play 3 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, so you can draw even more cards, potentially giving you access to your Black Whirlwind. If you have activated Prosperity, then you don't really care that you cannot draw, because you can use this card for the Forceful Sentry effect to look at your opponent's hand, and if you're going second, you can steal a monster, try to go for a game. Amazing card nonetheless. We play 1 copy of Call by the Grave, because it's an amazing card. And for the trap cards, the only trap we play in the deck is 1 copy of Blackwing Twin Shadow. This is a searchable trap card that is interruption, so you can return 2 of your Blackwing monsters that are in your graveyard or you're banished to the deck or the extra deck, and then you can get to Synchro summon 1 monster that has the equal level. So the card you're going to be summoning with this card most of the time is Blackwing Silverwind the Ascendant, which is a monster that on summon you can destroy 2 of your opponent's monsters. So this card being able to be activated during your opponent's turn because it's a trap card means that you're going to use Silverwind the Ascendant as an interruption, where before Silverwind the Ascendant was not a monster you could summon during your opponent's turn, so it was not the greatest of cards, but now because of this card you can very easily summon it on your opponent's turn, destroy their monsters. For the extra deck we have 1 copy of Blackwing Dragon. This card is now a crucial part of the deck, which makes a lot of sense because all the Signer Dragons, they made sense for some type of their deck. They made either retrains with cards like Ruddy Rose or the Stardust Synchro monster in the main deck, so Konami had to find a way to make Blackwing Dragon either a retrain or give the original card some purpose in the deck. So I really like the idea that they came up with, that you have to play this card in your extra deck to make plays and also summon it very easily. So that's a cool idea that they came up for the deck. We have 1 copy of Blackwing Nothang the Starlight. This card is a card that is going not only to give you an extra normal summon for Black Whirlwind, but in time this card will burn your opponent for 800 points and you're going to win like that, because again, the 700 points of damage you can very easily absorb them with Black Dragon, so you don't take them. And even if you take 1 instance of 700 damage, this card deals 800, so you're still going to be 100 points up, so you're going to win in time. So yeah, this card gives you the out button to time, and it also gives you more utility for the extra normal sum. We play 1 copy of Blackwing Silverwind the Ascendant. This is a card that nobody played before, but now with a new support, being able to summon this with a trap card during your opponent's turn, when it's synchro summoned, you can target up to 2 face-up monsters on the field with defense lower than this card's attack, and you destroy them. You cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. It doesn't matter at all, because you're going to summon this during your opponent's turn 100% of the time, and during each of your opponent's turn, the first time a Blackwing monster you control will be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. So even if your opponent tries to run over your monsters, they will have to try harder, because 1 attack is not going to cut it when this card is on the field. We play 1 copy of Blackwing Full Armor Master. This is the unaffected towers of the deck. It's not the most difficult monster to deal with, because cards like Access Code exist, but against some decks, then this card is going to be really good. For example, against Laundries, they don't have an out to a 3k unaffect monster. You're going to get the most free ride against a deck like this if you manage to summon this monster. So yeah, this card is really good just for the unaffected part, but it also has an effect that each time a monster your opponent controls activates its effect, they get a wedge counter, and then you can target a monster your opponent controls with a wedge counter during your own turn, and you take control of it, and during the end phase you can destroy all monsters on the field that have a wedge counter. So yeah, this card, on top of being an unaffected body, it does give you some power that can steal monsters and also destroy monsters. We play 1 copy of Draco Berserker of the Tenny. This is another level 8 synchro monster that you can summon, which is dark, so you can summon this under any restriction, and it's also another interruption you can get on the field. And we have 1 copy of Hot Rod Dragon Archfin Abyss. Because of Orochi the Squall, being able to summon first Blackwing Dragon, get Orochi on the field, and then you can go for this card very easily, because Blackwing Dragon is a Dark Dragon synchro monster, so we can also use this monster in our deck. We do play some Xyz monsters, because I mentioned again that also those free level 4 special summons get you easy access to level 2 rank 4 synchros, so we do play 1 copy of Force Tricks, which can give us a search for a level 4 Darkwing Beast, which is basically the majority of our monsters when we want to get some extenders on the field. We do play 1 copy of Time Thief Redoer. You mainly want to summon this against deck like Eldritch or any type of trap deck, because when you can guarantee a trap card under this card becomes really oppressive, because your opponent cannot deal with it very easily because of the bouncing effect that can go in banish zone and then get back, and if you keep getting spells or traps, you're going to get advantage with this card every standby. And we also play 1 copy of Evils from Nightmare, which is an amazing interruption. If your deck can summon this card, then you should playing it. It's much better than Baguska, because when you put one of your opponent's monsters face down, in a lot of matchups, these monsters are going to be stuck there for the entire turn. Unless they're playing a fusion type of deck, then they won't be able to do anything with them, so this is why this card is really good. And for the Link monsters, we play 1 copy of Wise Tricks. You're not using this card's effect to set any rank ups in the deck. If you want, you can also play a Phantom Knight package, cards so you can get access to more interruption, but I feel like you're making the deck more breaky, so it's basically a more way to play the deck. It's not terrible, but I feel like it's not necessary anymore because of all the cards that have in the deck now, so you don't really need to make your deck more inconsistent to get more interruptions. You're using this card specifically to get a level 4 Darkwing beast from the deck. You cannot link with it, but you can exist with it, and then most of the time, since you're getting Zephyros, you're going to detach it for a 4-strix, you get a Surge, and then you can use Zephyros' effect in the grave. We play one copy of Masquerena because of all the spamming we can do. We can leave her on the field and then go in for a Unicorn during our opponent's turn, or we can even go for Appaloosa because with all the restrictions that the deck has, you cannot summon Appaloosa during your own turn, but if you play Masquerena, then sometimes you can do that as well during your opponent's turn. We play one copy of Dark the Dark Charmer. In any deck that can summon this card, you absolutely have to play it. The amount of good dark monsters you can steal in the format right now is absurd. When Tier Elements are the best deck, then of course this card has a lot of utility, so you need play it. We play one copy of Nightmare Unicorn for Masquerena or for going second when you're trying to push. One copy of Appaloosa. You can summon this with Masquerena during your opponent's turn, or if you're going into a grind game and you start special summoning monsters but you don't really get access to Synchros, then after you try to clear your opponent's board by summoning this card, you can make things more difficult for your opponent to come back. And we also have one copy of Access Code Talker because it's the notorious game ender of the game right now, and in any deck that can spam a lot of monsters, you can summon this very, very easily, so you can destroy your opponent with this card. So yep, that's the deck, guys. Blackwings, new support. They're going to get even more. You don't have to worry about it. If you're not satisfied at all with the cards that we got, then you can be certain that we're going to get more cards. But this, I feel like, was a step towards the right direction because we have gotten a lot of irrelevant support waves in a lot of decks, and this is definitely not one of them. We did get some really good cards. The strategy of the deck, while intact being trying to summon Synchro monsters, it has gotten a power boost, and even though it's not going to be a meta deck, not even close yet, we can still hope that someday in the future we can get more good cards that are going to push this deck to at least be a tier 2 deck eventually. So yep, that's the deck, guys. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming content, and we'll see you next time.